The psychological reconstruction of Iran, from authoritarianism to democratic culture. Article 7. The dignity of sexual minorities, a test of democratic maturity. Article 7. The dignity of sexual minorities, a test of democratic maturity. A society should not be judged only by how it treats its majority. Its moral character and democratic maturity are revealed by the way it treats those who are different. By that measure, the status of sexual minorities is one of the clearest indicators of a democratic culture. A society that denies people respect, security, or equal rights because of their sexual orientation or gender identity has made human dignity conditional rather than universal. In Iran, many sexual minorities are forced to hide a fundamental part of who they are from their families, colleagues, and society. Their greatest fear is often not the future itself, but exposure. Living behind a mask is more than a social burden. It gradually undermines psychological well-being. When people must constantly separate who they are from who they are expected to be, their sense of security, self-worth, and authenticity slowly erodes. This concealment is more than silence. It demands constant self-censorship, forcing people to monitor their emotions, relationships, and everyday conversations. Energy that should be invested in growth and meaningful human connection is instead spent avoiding rejection. Such a life increases the risk of chronic anxiety, depression, loneliness, and emotional exhaustion. Mental health depends not only on the absence of illness, but also on the ability to live honestly and without fear. Psychologically, the need to belong is one of humanity's most basic needs. Yet when acceptance depends on conformity, difference becomes a source of fear. In authoritarian cultures, belonging is gradually replaced by enforced uniformity. Those who differ are viewed not simply as different, but as abnormal or in need of correction. Sexual orientation and gender identity cease to be understood as natural aspects of human diversity and instead become measures of personal worth. The damage begins long before discrimination appears in law. A young person repeatedly told that their feelings are shameful eventually internalizes that judgment. Persistent shame, secrecy, and fear of rejection are well-known risk factors for anxiety, depression, social isolation, and diminished self-esteem. Much of the suffering experienced by sexual minorities therefore results not from their identity, but from the prejudice surrounding it. Families can become either a refuge or a source of fear. When love is made conditional upon changing a child's identity, the safest place in life becomes emotionally unsafe. Families that preserve a child's dignity, even amid disagreement, provide one of the strongest protections for mental health. Language also sustains discrimination. Authoritarianism begins in words long before it appears in law. Humiliating labels and stereotypes strip people of their humanity until prejudice becomes ordinary. Discrimination is then reinforced through jokes, insults, stereotypes, and silence, making inequality appear normal rather than unjust. If language lays the foundation for discrimination, the law can either reinforce or restrain it. Laws that criminalize or deny equal rights because of sexual orientation or gender identity signal that some citizens deserve less dignity than others. Such messages inevitably spread into schools, workplaces, the media, and family life. A democratic society does not require citizens to share the same moral or religious beliefs. It requires them to respect one another's equal rights. Personal convictions, however deeply held, cannot justify humiliation, exclusion, or violence. Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights affirms that all people are born free and equal in dignity and rights, while Article 7 guarantees equality before the law. These principles protect everyone, not only minorities. Legal reform alone is insufficient. Schools must teach respect for diversity rather than fear of it. The media should reject degrading stereotypes, and mental health professionals must remain guided by scientific evidence and ethical principles rather than prejudice. Psychiatry exists to relieve suffering, not to enforce conformity. Iran's psychological reconstruction cannot be achieved through political change alone. It begins when every individual is recognized as possessing inherent dignity before any label or identity. Defending the rights of sexual minorities is not about granting special privileges. It is about protecting a principle that safeguards the freedom of all. Democracy reaches maturity only when no one must deny who they are in order to be treated with dignity, because human dignity is the birthright of every person. Mahmoud Ashkanian, neuropsychiatrist, Ph.D.